What's new, 802? I'm Becca Hammond, and you're listening to Burlington Talks. Burlington Talks may include graphic or explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Season 2, Episode 1. I am so excited to be back and producing content for you. And I want to thank Ryan Cohen so much for recording this interview back in mid-February, actually, and I'm just now getting to posting it. So awesome. So exciting. So, Ryan Cohen, the owner of Robot Dog Studio in Williston. He is also the owner of a super cool dog named Robot, who is one of the prettiest dogs I've ever seen in my life. He's gigantic, he's friendly, he's a big, gentle giant, and yeah, he's just the coolest dog, and his name is Robot, and I believe the studio is named after Robot. And Ryan records all sorts of people, from rappers and hip-hop artists to metal bands to anything you can imagine in between that. He's happy to work with everybody. He has a really cool studio set up there. He's just a really awesome guy, very chill atmosphere. I highly suggest you check it out if you're looking for any sort of recording help. Here we go. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we're in your studio. It is one of the coolest little spaces.
Thanks a lot.
Tell me about Robot Dog.
Well, I guess I can tell you about Robot the dog, who's over in the next room chilling, either on the couch or next to my mixing desk. But he's this really sweet 60 or 70 pound mutt, and he's going on 11 years or so, and he's always hanging out and just being a good boy, helping out during the sessions, getting pet, stuff like that. This spot here in Williston I've had for 5 years, over 5 years, which is always crazy to me that it's been going that long. So it feels like just yesterday that we opened the doors. But yeah, we record all kinds of bands and solo artists and musicians of all types. Such a wide variety of music. A lot of rock music, a lot of acoustic music, folk. We have rappers in here, just all kinds, and all walks of life, all skill levels, and just happy to have anyone in who wants to try out the recording studio experience.
So 5 years ago, you started this space. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I've always been really obsessed with recording and making music, and it's just endlessly fascinating capturing it and the different ways you can capture it and different styles of music and how you just make different kinds of music sound as good as they possibly can. There's all kinds of different standards and techniques and things. And so I've always been obsessed with it, always sort of doing it on the side. And my dream was just to make it a full-time job, and kind of took the leap a little ways back, and always kind of wish I did it sooner.
So I've been playing with recordings my whole life because I'm a musician, and I've been playing with recordings. I remember running earphones into old cassette decks backwards.
Yeah.
And using the headphones as a microphone and just recording that way. What was your earliest recording experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been like a DIY geek, like someone who liked to build things. My father kind of instilled that in me. Anytime there was like a toy or something I was into, he would just kind of whip up his own version for me. So it's always been something that's been instilled in me. And I mean, honestly, to go way back, I had this little Ronald McDonald lunchbox, and I drilled holes in it, and I put little variable resistors in it, and I
Nice.
Built a mixer out of it when I was like way too young to be doing that. But I was always into like building stuff and electronics and all that. And yeah, I definitely did the 2 cassette decks thing, the dubbing thing. Never actually had a 4-track. It just never happen. But in my last few years of high school, it was the late 90s, and I got like one of the first kind of computer recording rigs together with what I had, and just started from there.
Nice. I bet the software was lightning fast at the end of the 90s.
Well, I'm always so curious to maybe go back and like build a classic computer like that and see what it was like, because I don't know. I like way into the idea of is technology like helping or hurting, and they've done. I mean, it was a while ago, but they did some tests kind of comparing like Microsoft Word on or like Microsoft Office on a 1984 Mac SE or whatever that was compared to like a 2010 Windows whatever it was XP or something, and like I believe in some cases like the iMac was faster just because there was less crap that you didn't need on it. So yeah, it would be really curious what it would be like to go back to one of those rigs, because at the time I thought it was like seriously limiting. Couldn't do what I wanted with it really,
Right.
but it could have just been my skills, my ability, my taste, my ears at the time were not up to snuff yet.
Right. Yeah, the industry's changed so vastly with the digital era that it's almost mind-boggling how, because early 2000s looking into doing audio engineering, just the cost involved and how complicated it was, and everything was suddenly going digital. And that's when the rise of auto-tune suddenly took over. And it was funny for me because I was looking at colleges around 2011, I think. And I was actually looking at audio engineering schools.
Yeah.
And one of their big pushes, at least around 2010, was that the digital world is ruining music.
Oh yeah.
So this college actually just ripped out this I think it was like a 90 channel. I forget what exactly the channel numbers are, but it's like a 12-foot mixing board, and they ripped it out and put in an analog one that same year. And it was fascinating because you can kind of fake things with digital music. And that's literally what they said, is you can fake being talented with digital music, but you can't do that with analog boards. What are your thoughts on that?
I just think that's a super kind of outdated attitude to really value any one thing over any other thing. I'm pretty postmodern about it. I'm not a purist. And I cater and I enjoy and I cater to a lot of different artists. Some people won't record on anything but analog, and they'll only record to tape. And I have reel-to-reel tape machines that they can record to. Others doesn't even really factor in. They're just whatever is going to get the job done most efficiently for them. So sometimes they're just different and people have different preferences, and maybe a certain medium imparts a certain sound. And other times it's just all aesthetics, and I'm just super relativistic about all that stuff. So I think what at the heart of it is it a good song? Is it a good performance?
Right. Are you happy with the sound of the recording?
And if you're using a bunch of digital manipulation, is it creative, or is it something that's, been done to death already?
Right.
So I think there's value in every approach, and there's just a lot of stick in the muds that want to say one way is better than the other, and it's just kind of a pointless debate to me. I think everything's valid, and it's just like, what do you prefer?
Well, it's funny to disregard a certain type of recording because we're living in this golden age where we've got all this recorded history now, but it doesn't sound perfect. Are we really going to say, oh, well, this recording of this chain gang in the 19-teens isn't good enough because it, there's crackles and pops? Like, we wouldn't even have that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like even the whole idea of remastering stuff, early remasters from vinyl or like in the late 80s and 90s are kind of known to be really kind of sound like crap compared to what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Just, it's all...
There seemed to be this huge influx right around when you're talking about, like, the CD came and all of
Yeah.
a sudden we had to remaster every single amazing album from the last 60
Yeah.
years.
And I mean, I think that sort of creates a different thing. I think you kind of want to appreciate it in the context that it was made in. You don't want to, like, it's like a bit of revisionist history to remix or remaster it.
Right, you're changing what it sounds like. And it's funny with most artists today, I don't really hear it, but I meet some older musicians every now and then. And you really kind of drive this point home that recordings are awesome. All recordings are awesome. It's great to be able to listen back to music, but it's a recording of a live performance. Like, there's a real person, there's an actual event happening, and it's really just a snapshot of time. Like, you gotta appreciate that this isn't the recording itself. Might be a work of art and everything, but it's kind of a tribute to the artist. It's kind of a tribute to the music itself. It's not the be all end all.
Yeah, definitely. It's one representation.
Exactly.
And it was a representation in the context of the technology and the style of the era and stuff.
And that kind of gives you the feel for the era and the style. Like, can you imagine if they went back to, I'm trying to think, like the Friends or Seinfeld, and they did it in 4K?
Yeah.
And like how weird that would be with the laugh track, and like you gotta leave it in the 80s, leave it in the 90s, let it be what it is.
I honestly, like, to get really geeky on it, there is sort of an example of that revisionist history. Pearl Jam's first album, 10, is notoriously, like, heavy with 80s style reverb,
right,
and stuff, and it was still a big hit, but it sort of came out right when everyone was trying to go really punk rock and strip everything down, like Nirvana's In Utero, Nirvana's third album and stuff. That was really the goal everyone was going for, was something really authentic like that. And a few years ago, they remixed that Pearl Jam 10 album with like a modern sound. But the funny thing was, by the time they got around to remixing it, all that heavy 80s reverb had come back in style. So now they were just out of style again.
That's funny. I was just thinking, I feel like I read about that, and everyone kind of, like, real Pearl Jam fans kind of hated that revision.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you're not allowed to, unfortunately, for better or for worse, you don't get to do that in history.
Yeah, well, that's it. It changes it. You can't, what did they say in science? You can't measure something without changing it. Well, you can't record something without changing it. And you can't touch that recording without changing it.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter, even when you think you're, like, with the newest, most cutting edge style or whatever, you're probably dating it to the era that you're in.
It might not necessarily make it any better. In 10 years, you're going to say, oh, I don't like it as much. Or
yeah, and I mean, you just gotta stand by it, no matter what. It's all good.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about some people that come in here and they come to you. So how much of a percentage of people come to you looking to make the recording, and how many come with their own recording?
Most come in here looking to make a recording from scratch, but definitely do have some people that come in with stuff they've recorded at home, and or stuff they've recorded and mixed at home. And sometimes I do the finishing touches, the mastering.
Right.
On that, but yeah, probably 3/4 recording people here, and then most of the time completely, finishing their project from mixing and mastering and everything.
So you have a couple different media channels. You've got a YouTube channel that seems pretty active, and it actually seems really cool. I'm going to plug your YouTube channel for you. So what is the end goal? Someone comes in here, they want music. Are you just making whatever they want? Is it like an album, a song, CD, vinyl disc? Where are you guys heading?
It's really just taking their project from point A to whatever the end goal is, and kind of facilitating that in whatever way possible. Try to like not leave people hanging with unfinished projects and stuff. And, I have some set rates, and I, will probably give those out to bands, and then, they can't always get to that budget. So then we can like restructure the project to fit their budget and just make sure the whole project gets completed for them in whatever time frame they have and whatever money they have to spend. But yeah, it's just really facilitating the process in any way. And, I have a big bag of tricks from, years of experience just of how to keep sessions rolling, moving forward, and how to encourage artists when they're getting discouraged, always being able to keep momentum, know which songs to start with, know which songs to save till later in the session and stuff, and know how to get everything set up and rolling really quick, and not be like kind of fretting over how to get a tone on an instrument or something, kind of knowing, basically how to get there, in minutes, and
Right.
just kind of, and sort of doing all that for the artist, and not really just taking all that worry of the recording process away from the artist so they can focus on playing their instrument or kind of getting in the feeling that they're going for in a vocal performance or stuff like that.
So what's a normal recording session look like? Like someone comes to you, they play guitar and they sing. How do you set them up? What can they expect?
Yeah, well, I just kind of asked them a lot about their music and artists that they enjoy and albums that they like the sound of. Ask them what their recording experience is, how they recorded in the past, what they liked or didn't like about it, and then just will try to set things up in such a way that is just most comfy and most efficient for them to do their thing. A lot of times, producers will have a set way that they like to work to get a certain sound that they're looking for.
Right.
And I totally respect that, because there are a lot of producers with really strong vision. I've been more relativistic and just kind of a student of many different techniques and approaches, and I just kind of will employ whatever approach really fits the artist best. A lot of producers don't like to record someone singing and playing acoustic guitar at the same time.
That's what I was wondering about, which is really hard for someone, the artist who's written the song and they practice and they never sing it without the guitar.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're in the studio and they're being told play it without singing and sing it without playing, and suddenly they freeze.
Yeah, totally. And similarly with bands that are used to playing together in their practice space. There are two things to consider there. One, what's the artist used to and what's going to make them most comfortable, but also what's going to make the best product.
Right.
I love to, if possible, go out and see an artist perform live, and see a band perform live. And if they bring a power and a magic to the music by playing together at the same time, then I try not to like mess with that. I would encourage them to come in and all play together at the same time. But if I hear that maybe they have some great songs and have great elements, but maybe they aren't really gelling or becoming, something greater than some of their parts, then I might have them come in and say, yeah, let's break this down part by part, and we'll make the most of it. So yeah, it's like two considerations. Like, are we going to get the best product, and will the artist be most comfortable? And getting back to what you're saying about just like a guitarist, singer-songwriter coming in, the easiest thing to do would, if they're very used to just playing and singing guitar at the same time, the easiest and like quickest first thing to do would just be to record them like that.
Right.
And see if the project comes out. But there are some acoustic singer-songwriters that are they're used to recording themselves and they're used to multi-tracking.
Right.
And you'll have an artist that actually gets more anxious if they have to sing and play at the same time. Sometimes they like to really be able to focus on their guitar playing and then really be able to focus on their singing. So basically, long story short, it just comes down to whatever works best for the artist. And I'm just very flexible about how to do that, and also always totally willing to pivot in the middle of a session and try something different.
Right. Well, it's all about the end product and making your customer happy. So that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, and really that is the most important thing. Is like, and you know, I don't want to have I want to have a fun time doing whatever we're doing. So, so I think I want to just make sure it's a fun, relaxed vibe, and we're getting to make great music and stuff. So
Right. When I was a kid, we went down to, I'm not really sure why we did this, but we went down to Massachusetts and recorded a demo, but it was just this guy's like basement recording setup.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a professional by any means. But it was really interesting because we were all expecting that we were going to show up and they were going to record us all separately.
Yeah.
And they kind of did this weird hybrid where they recorded the entire band and they let the singer sing while we played, but they didn't record him. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then they just came back, okay, this is exactly what you sound like when you all play together, just without the audio track, sing over it. It was interesting. I'm not quite sure if it was the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
But it gave us more of a good flow, I think, because we were able to all play together and we were all extremely nervous about trying to play separately because we use each other's cues.
Yeah.
Of course, this is a high school band a long time ago. You probably should be able to count a lot better than we were. But yeah, it's interesting going into that scenario because it's very nerve-wracking for someone who's never done it before, or just coming in. And it feels so big, like that first moment where you're recording yourself as an artist. That's like the proof that you really do this. You want it to be the best, and it's so scary.
Well, you're really on the spot, and sometimes I forget that. Sometimes I take it for granted because I do this day in, day out. But it's like you're really putting yourself on the spot. You're really exposing yourself. You're exposing potentially your flaws, and you're maybe giving an emotive performance about a subject that's really personal to you. So it's a really intimate thing, and you gotta I've got to try to create a safe, comforting environment for people to be able to do that. And also, I've always got to remind myself to put myself in the shoes of someone who's very new at this, coming in and not even knowing the basics of the process, and really being able to kind of break it down for them into the simplest terms to get them rolling. And also doing my best to kind of avoid those scenarios like you're talking about that everyone has about recording studios, where like, yeah, we went and we did it and it was kind of weird, didn't really come out like I was hoping. But so, that's always kind of hard damage control for me to do, because once a band comes in and we get a working relationship going, they start to see that it's really just very fun work, and we're just like, it's a good hang, and we're just like, everyone's doing what we love to do, which is make music, and I'm just helping them make it happen in like more of a professional setting. But yeah, and it's also, it's hard to like explain over the phone. People are very nervous about the process, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, no, it's going to be totally chill. You're going to love it. It's going to, and that's like, they can't possibly understand the vibe until they've come in for a session. And then it's just like a good hang. You're making music, and I'm kind of like, taking the stress of recording and getting it down. I'm just like, kind of just play your song, and that was so good. Let's try it one more time. I think you're gonna have it this next take, and
Right, just keeping that happy vibe. It's okay.
yeah. I mean, in general, I don't think you get anywhere just kind of picking people apart or just like
Right.
nagging them through something. It's like people just need to be put in a position to be confident and do their best work, and so a lot of cheerleading and figuring out tricks to get past things that get us stuck, and just ways of just shifting gears and distracting people from something that might be frustrating them, so they can get back in their, get back in the zone, get back in their flow state, their
Right.
happy place.
So that sounds like the biggest takeaway, that if you were a new artist and you were listening to this and you were hoping to come and record with Ryan, just relax. Just relax. It's going to be okay. I mean, obviously they should be well rehearsed and know their stuff, but beyond that, is there any real prep work that you would ask people to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it varies so much for what people are going for. I think, and it varies depending on how serious you are. I mean, some people are more casual about what they're doing, and maybe they're going for more of a garagey feel with their recording, and I think that's really key too. And probably a bit of a difference between me and other producers is I understand that there are some people that are, technical, maybe like heavy metal or alternative rock players that have one sound in mind that's very tight and precise and well produced. And then there are other people that are rock Americana, kind of more like a Neil Young style of rock, that's more rough around the edges, or they're like or they're a garage punk band. So everyone has different sounds and different ways that might be appropriate for them to prepare. But yeah, you mentioned the YouTube videos and stuff, like content like that, and that's actually been kind of a big help in not so much. I guess the thing is, I like to touch base with artists before they come in, and we can just kind of hash out what's going to be the best way for them to prepare for a session,
right?
Because it does vary. But yeah, I think the YouTube videos have been cool in sort of breaking the ice for me, because like I said, I sometimes forget that also an artist comes in, it's like there isn't necessarily trust built up yet, so we have to establish a relationship, and sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and I'll start jumping on their drum set and like tuning their drums up for them, and they're, that can make you a little uncomfortable if you don't really know that I can do a good job with tuning their drum set,
right,
or tweaking their drum set. So now I have a few videos out there where people can sort of judge for themselves if they think I have any expertise in what I'm doing, but at least they can kind of get used to it, and kind of get used to where I'm hands on and where I'm hands off with the process. And yeah, it's been a bit of an icebreaker, so they can kind of get a feel for what the vibe of the sessions are like.
Right. So how long have you been making the YouTube videos?
Well, I'm probably almost as long as I've had this location here,
Cool.
4 or 5 years. And it's a really interesting evolution. I started recording more and more bands live, playing at the same time, sort of because bands would come in and they're like, okay, we've got a day or we've got a weekend and we want to record 12 songs. And initially I was like, oh, well, that's not possible.
I was going to say 12 songs.
but then I started to actually be able to do it. It's like you set up a band and you record them playing at the same time in a room, and there are ways to make that tighter. You can move the speakers outside of the room. You can sort of isolate elements. But yeah, so I got faster at that to fit bands' budgets. And so I had all these bands that were playing their entire songs live at the same time. A lot of times with vocals, or if not final vocals, kind of like what you were talking about, as you call it, a scratch vocal that you might get rid of, but you just kind of have there to kind of play and get the vibe of the song.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So I was recording bands live, playing at the same time, and I was also really into this web series called Shaking Through, which is filmed at a recording studio in Philly called Minor Street, and it's just these really beautifully filmed videos on how they'd record these sessions for these indie bands. And it was a nonprofit, and they funded it all through the nonprofit and stuff, and on and on. It's really an inspiring series. So I kind of wanted to do something like that because I was such a geek for it and wanted to just show people about the recording process. And I sort of never really got there with that project because I never really had the right partner to help me. I couldn't film myself doing that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Obviously.
It really is hard to do that.
But I did at least want to give people a window into what was going on at the studio, and I kind of saw that, I mean, it should be pretty obvious. It is pretty obvious to a lot of people, the importance of visuals and video to kind of tell a story about what's going on in any kind of endeavor that you're doing online right now. So I got like a $50 knockoff GoPro. Yeah,
I've got one of those. They're pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's a Yi, I think, and I still have it. It's like yellow and green, and it's actually like amazing in low light too. So
yeah, those cameras are sweet.
Yeah, I got a newer one, and it was not nearly as good. But anyway, so yeah, I just started throwing that in the corner of the room just to at least document and like get a little more content out there to show people what was going on. And yeah, so just started it like very DIY with whatever I had, and it was very, very rough around the edges. And then I started getting some old iPhones together, and I would put them on tripods around the room and stuff. So went from that to like these multicam videos that were fixed and stuff. And then at some point in there, I had a very good friend and artist that I worked with just really took all this initiative and dove into video work. And he initially started filming sessions with another partner here at the studio. We bought $100 gimbals and put these free iPhones on the gimbals, and it's like really was it like a stunning effect, and for the time, like a few years ago,
right?
Just made such a smooth video, and it was also like we were making these great live music videos in the studio for like no investment, which I just loved. I loved creating that value out of nowhere,
right?
And the bands, it's like it was mixed reception from the bands because and bands are a little slow to catch on. They're, people who are music lovers, they like listening to albums. They people who are more casual listeners will like watch a video or two here and there. But that's where like the general public is going to listen to music. They're going onto YouTube,
and that's where I've found some of my favorite artists. And
exactly,
I never would have heard of Shaky Graves if I hadn't found him on YouTube, and I love him so much. So everyone should be making YouTube videos.
Yeah, totally. And it's this really simple concept that I like always tell artists is like, I mean, they're always so complaining and negative about people not like wanting to go to their Bandcamp or whatever to listen to their music. And it's like, it's just kind of a reality. It's like, it's going to be very hard to get somebody to go listen to your audio, jump off on like another site or whatever. But when there's a video playing in their feed, it's like something about the human brain, or at least my brain. It's like I will watch like 3 seconds of whatever it is, just to see what the heck it is, and then I just move on. So it's like, obviously you want to take advantage of that and you want to catch people's attention. So yeah, we just started doing more video content and it was just like a win-win. The bands would be able to promote their stuff. They'd be able to at least just get the word out, get to show people that they were making music and people were able to hear their music. And yeah, so Christian Taylor, who was doing the video, he just really dove into it, and he started buying gear and learning and just becoming extremely professional with his approach. And now he's got these great Sony mirrorless cameras that we're going to concerts, and we're doing multicam shoots. And
nice.
Yeah, so it's really taken off, and it's a really rewarding thing to be able to show so many people what's going on in our music scene. I mean, at this point we've done like, probably well over like 100 performance videos of bands. If anyone is interested in the Burlington music scene, just go to my YouTube channel and go to the Robot Dog music playlist, and you can just buzz through and just really see and hear what's going on in the Burlington music scene. But yeah, by and by, eventually we got back on to doing what my original dream was, inspired by that Shaking Through series, which was showing people more of the process. And so we've been able to do that a bit more lately, which is also a learning process, because there are things that are interesting to me, and there are things that are interesting to really super music or like recording geeks and stuff.
Right.
But there's got to be a balance of what's just going to be interesting to the most people as possible, and like how to keep everything animated and be like a YouTube personality.
Oh yeah, YouTube personality.
Yeah.
It's I made YouTube videos and they're so cringy now. I mean, they're not that bad, but they're time lapses of artwork, and I just have such a hard time getting excited. Like,
yeah,
watch my YouTube video. Like, I can't. I can't do it.
It's such a learning curve, because I'm just a super chill person. I'd say I have like a pretty just like low and slow energy level, and if I kind of do that on camera, I look dead. So it's like you got to be a little more animated, moving your mouth, moving your face, open up your eyes and like wave your hands and stuff. So even without taking it to the extreme of being like a wacky YouTube personality, just so people can even watch you it's a learning process.
Yeah, I feel like the monotone thing, because I'm a really monotone person. I'm just monotone.
Me too.
Like you said, I'm calm. You're just not. Even when I get excited, I don't think I'm really not monotone. I'm just more excited. Yeah. That was so hard to try and get that energy flowing, and you feel ridiculous when you're doing it. But I wanted to give you props. Your YouTube channel looks so good. Those
thanks.
videos look amazing. Is Christian doing the graphics for the YouTube videos?
Like titles and things like that.
Yeah, the title cards look amazing. That looks like
such
a really nice YouTube video channel. Like, it's all very well what do they call that? Where everything flows
branded.
Well together. Yes, well branded. It looks really good. Everyone should check out the YouTube videos.
Oh, thanks a lot. And I will say that I don't find your voice overly monotone, and you've also got that great NPR kind of style going on. So
I've heard a lot of people say I have a podcast voice, which is
absolutely
good.
That's what you'll exactly.
Would be really bad if they were telling me, "Oh, you don't really have the voice for this." Okay, so the YouTube videos, I watched a handful of them and just flipping through. So you've got recording gear videos, process videos. So in that same YouTube channel, you have actual artist videos too?
Yeah, and I mean they could be two channels really, but you know, it's hard enough to launch one YouTube channel.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
you.
so they have slightly different audiences, but there is some crossover, and and also a lot of the performance videos, because I have bands coming in here all the time, so it's like a great opportunity. There's so many recording and mixing videos online. I don't want to say by amateurs or like supposed experts, but a lot of them are, you know, they just seem very theoretical, and they're sort of done in a bedroom, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be an expert from your bedroom, but I just had this opportunity to have all these bands coming in. I can do tutorials, and we can shoot out equipment and stuff, and have them in like actual real world recording scenarios. So it's just a way to you know, you take advantage of what's already going on in the studio, and just turn that into content.
Yeah, that's the best thing you can do in this day and age is just make more content and get it out
Yeah,
there.
I mean that's the challenge, is like keeping up with it. We're gonna try to do one this afternoon, but yeah, the YouTube channel is growing really well. I got to put myself out there and make some sort of controversial videos sometimes,
Right.
which is fun to do. Really get some conversation going in the recording, you know, online recording scene and stuff. But you know, it's definitely you stick your neck out there, and there are going to be a lot of haters. So.
Oh yeah, we were kind of talking about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of opinions in music in general, but in the recording side of music, the gear gets. It's like everyone's having a war about the gear. Everyone's fighting about the software, and it can be a downer.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it just gets so far away from what I love most about music. And I mean, I have bought many toys for recording and gear, but and that's fine. They can be inspiring, because that inspires me to create. But it's not necessarily what's gonna inspire your audience or whatever. It's just kind of putting what your recording gear actually does for your sound, just kind of putting that into perspective a little bit more, because in my opinion it's been really kind of blown way out of proportion what certain expensive gear actually does to your sound. And maybe it does make a big difference, but there just aren't a lot of apples to apples comparisons out there for people to be their own judge of that. And there's a lot of marketing by these brands and catalogs and things, but I don't even know if that's the worst of it. It's sort of like the internet echo chamber that, and many of which are people that are just kind of parroting what other people have said. They're not really people who are doing it professionally in the industry, and they're telling you that you need a certain piece of gear to do something professionally. And it's been fun to be an alternative perspective and say, I am in fact doing this professionally, and I could actually do it with this very inexpensive gear, and it would sound the same. That's what I'm saying, is that it would sound the same, but I'm not. That's really just my opinion and what I've found myself. I'm also like putting a blind comparison out there for people to judge for themselves. What I found in a lot of the things that I compare is that people are still very opinionated about this thing that I consider to be relatively identical.
Right.
But I find the results that, usually end up being split 50-50. So I think there's still a huge bit of psychology at play there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that humans inherently just want to assume that the higher quality, the more expensive, it has to be better. That's always the way we think of things. Someone actually did a really excellent test on YouTube this year, and they brought cake out into public, and this was just a random park, and they told people this cake cost $15, and then they told people this cake cost $50. Same piece of cake, just here's half of it cost $50, half of it cost $15. Almost exclusively, every single person said the $50 cake tastes so much better.
Yeah.
The $15 cake was dry.
Yeah.
It was crumbly. But this $50 cake was the best cake they'd ever eaten. And it was the exact same cake.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially with audio recording, people say, oh, I can hear it's better because it costs more. But and I'm an electrical engineer. I went to school for electronics.
Yeah.
Very similar frequency responses and having to plot curves and understanding frequencies and just the electromagnetic spectrum in general. The science isn't there all the time to back up that this more expensive piece of equipment sounds better, because the audio frequency recording is basically identical. So
That's so interesting to hear.
how can you claim that, oh, I can hear it? Well, you can look at the waveform and it's exactly the same. So what are you hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. And the extent to which people perceive these subjective differences. And yeah, it isn't, like I said, it isn't all the manufacturers. It's a lot of people online, but it's also the press. There's all these reviews on this gear that uphold, and even to such a wacky extent, just like go on and on about the differences between this gear and when I've been able to blind test myself. And I mentioned psychology, and it's also, there's a lack of introspection on how we're perceiving these things.
Right.
And it was a cool position to have this opportunity to basically emasculate all my expensive gear purchases, because there have been shootouts between gear online, but people are sort of trying to do it with like a $600 piece of gear and like a $200 piece of gear, and I think that's valid too. But no one has taken their $7,000 professional audio interface and compared it to the $300 consumer level one that they brought to as a backup or to take out to live shows or whatever.
Right.
And I had a suspicion that they sounded exactly the same. and yeah, I tested that, and so it's like starting that discussion for the world. There's like so very few perspectives. And even people that have more industry experience than me, they're almost even more dug in on their mythos about their gear. And a lot of these, really great, accomplished producers and mixers and stuff, I mean, they've gotten used to using this gear, and I don't think it's about what gear they're using. I think it's about their experience and how they listen and the perspective that they put on things. But yeah, I think what's lacking is anyone holding themselves in check. And that's what I had to do with blind testing some of these things, because I was kind of watching the same perceptions and psychology play out in my own head. I was looking for these ways that the more expensive unit was going to be better.
Right.
And I totally thought I could hear them, or I was looking for them. But then when I made it blind, I just guessed wrong 50% of the time, which means I just could not actually perceive the difference.
Right.
So, and I had to really be honest with myself there, because some of these reviews that I read, they're like very cocky, and they're like talking about bragging rights over like how good their ears are.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I'm like secure enough. There's a lot of inferiority complex at work, and there's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And people will think if they have this gear. I mean, I use like $100 monitor speakers, like my main speakers. And that's one of the biggest sacred cows in the recording and mixing
Oh
world.
yeah, you need like the best speakers and
Yeah.
the best earphones and the best, but the frequency response
Yeah.
is the same.
Yeah, and it's living proof that you can have a business with what gear you have, and then it's not about the gear that you have. And I do have some cool toys in the studio. I have nice recording gear too, but I have a lot of like amps and keyboards and stuff, and that's what musicians get excited about.
Right.
A lot of them don't really know the difference between what preamp or compressor you're using on the computer. It's not important to them. It's only there to kind of impress other audio engineers.
Right. Yeah, it's always so funny. I feel like when you're in that position where you can buy a $7,000 recording setup, you forget that, okay, there's the basic. Like, I'm going to hit record and this thing's going to record, and that's it. Because you get all these other peripherals, you can do so many cool things,
Yeah.
but that functionality that recording functionality isn't any different than this little cheap $300 instrument that I use to record on.
Yeah, it's a fun world to get into. And like you see, I've collected a lot of stuff, but it's like, also I didn't like grow up interning at big studios or anything. So if I wanted to try out an expensive piece of gear, I kind of had to buy it.
Right.
And then through that, I was able to hear for myself, like, did I see a huge improvement? And also I would try out all these techniques that were like really extensive and experimental and stuff, and just saw what kind of worked for me. And I always ended up, in the end, I just scaled it back to the simplest, kind of most efficient approach that got the job done. Kind of forgot where I was.
Oh, no worries.
Headed there.
This has been great. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover? We talked about the YouTube. We talked about recordings themselves. Is there anything else specific that you wanted to say about the studio?
Not really. I mean, I think we just touched on a lot of fun topics and stuff. I guess the main thing is like, it's definitely the door is always open here, and just kind of people who are interested in recording or mixing or just, geeking out about music, just kind of hit me up one way or another. And I just love to help with whatever they're working on in whatever way I can.
Awesome. Great to hear. Thank you so much, Ryan. I think we're going to end it here for the day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Woo.
Thanks so much to Ryan for being on the show today, and thank you for listening to the show. Please check out the show notes page. burlingtontalks.com/14 is going to be this link. You can find me online on Facebook, Instagram, both at Burlington Talks. Hit me up. I want to hear from you. I'm bored. It's the pandemic. I'd like to video chat with you. I'd like to do video interviews. I'd like to just be keeping Burlington talking. And that's what's new in the 802. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye now. Burlington Talks podcast music created by Jason Baker. Thank you, Jason.